Hey, today I'm going to explain lab 4 assignment 4 exercise number 3 Bloshu magic square. In this program it has two functions as well as main function. Let's move to the first function. It is R rows and column function. It accepts the argument two-dimensional list and it calculates number of rows and columns and return those values. Yeah, this is the function and it accepts the argument and it has two variables, rows and columns. To the rows it's get length of the list, it means to the dimensional list. Mention the main function, this is the list. This kind of list can accept by this function and it's calculate the number of columns, means length of the list 0, which means this first element, this length. And this function will return those values. And my second function is our first row sum function. It also accepts the arguments two-dimensional list and number of columns, and it's calculate sum of the rows and return that value. In this function it's accept the two-dimensional list according to the program and number of columns which written by my first function, this value, and there's a variable sum first row, initially it's equal to 0. There's a for loop. This is the index. R means row index in range 1. There's a inner for loop also there. This C means column index in range of columns. This argument will pass the value to here. This one means first, that's 0 element of the list, and this column will change to 0 to 3 according to this list, and here it's calculate the sum, that means first time and second time, third time, it's sum the all 3 times and return the sum, return the total here. And this is my third function, row sum is equal function. It's accept the arguments to dimension list as previous function, and sum of the first row, which means this return value of previous function, and number of rows and number of columns which written by my first function, these values. In this function, it will check whether sum of each row is equal to sum of first row. There's a variable called sum row. Initially it's equal to 0. Again there's a 2 for loops. Outer for loops, R is the index of rows. This number of rows argument will pass to this, and in a for loop, C means columns, column index in range of columns, like number of columns, and same as previous function, it's add a summation of the rows, each rows. Then there's a if statement. If that total summation not equal to sum of first row, will return false and print sum of the row is not equal to identify what is the reason this is not going to be Low-shoe magic square. If it is not false, it's going to out of for loop, and it will return true, which means the argument will, it means argument pass. So there's another function called column sum is equal function. It also accepts some arguments as previous function, 2-dimensional list, sum of the first row, and number of rows and number of columns. It will check whether sum of each column is equal to sum of first row. And again it will return the argument true or false. Same as previous function, here is it's called column sum is equal function. There are 4 arguments as well in similar to the previous functions. It has a variable called sum function. Initially it's equal to 0. Again there are two for loops. Out of for loop, the index, column index in range, number of columns we pass here, and in a for loop, it's a range of row index. It's actually opposite for the previous function. Previous function, row index outer, here row index inner, and previous function column index inner, and here column index outer. Same thing happens as previous function. It will sum all the value of rows if sum of column not equal to sum of first row, it will return false with the reason, with printing the reason. Otherwise it will go to the outer loop and return true. Before going to the outer for loop, the variable again sum column equaling to 0 here. Otherwise it will in second round it will adding to the first round total. That's why here it's making it 0 here. And there's another function called R and C sum is equal. We're also accepting some arguments, and in this function it will check whether the sum of rows and columns are equal. Here there is if statement to check these previous two function equal or not. If them equal, it's return true. If not equal, it's return false with displaying the reason. And there's another function. It's left diagonal sum. Actually, LD sum is equal to LD sum is equal function. So it's also accepting some arguments, and check whether sum from left diagonal is equal to sum of the first row. In this value 4, 5 and 6 equal to the assumption of first row. That's what this function is checking. There's a variable sum LD, initially it's equal to 0, and there's a for loop. This is index, diagonal index. There's a argument called row length. It can be row column length also. Both things are same because this is going to be square. Here again it's summing the total, and if total not equal to sum of first row, it will return false with the reason, printing the reason, else it's returned true. There's another function, RD sum is equal, same function to the previous one, but it will check whether the sum from right diagonal is equal to sum of first row. same things happens as previous function. Yeah, there's another function called is these are equal function. In this function there's same as the previous function, accept some argument and check whether sum of left diagonal and right diagonal are equal, and it will return true or false. Here there's a statement that checking previous two functions equal or not. If the two functions are equal, it will return true, else it will return false with reason displayed. And there's another function called isLOSU function. It also accepting some arguments, and here it's check whether sum of row and columns and sum of left diagonal and right diagonal are equal. Here there's also if statement, and it's called R and C sum is equal function, and is these are equal function, and checking those two functions equal or not. If two functions are equal, it return true, else it's return false. And there's a main function, calling function with passing arguments, and it will display the result also. The main function, there's a list, two-dimension list, with 3 elements and again 3 elements other side. And here it's calling to R and R rows and columns function with passing this list, and it will catch the return. It will catch the return values from this function. There are two return values. First one is rows and second one is columns. I used same variable names here. First one is rows and second one is columns. And there's a row length variable which used to function, and it will equal to number of rows or number of columns. Equaling it to number of rows, and here it's called again the function first row sum function with passing two arguments, and it will catch into this variable. And here there's a statement calling to isLOSU function passing those these values, these 4 values. This 2 dimension and this list, and sum of first row, number of rows, number of columns, and row length. This is the function. If it is true, it will return true. If it is true, here display this is the LOSU magic square. And If it is false, it will display this is not a Loshu magic square, and here it's calling main function. Alright, let's run the program. We know this is the proper Loshu magic square. See what happened. It shows this is the Loshu magic square. Let's change some numbers here. See what will happen. It says this is not a Loshu magic square because some of the rows is not equal, and as well as some of the row and column are not equal, so it is not Loshu magic square. So this is my program which I explaining at lab 4 assignment 4. So thank you very much.